Part CI. Finance, Property, Contracts and Suits. Chapter III. Property, Contracts, Rights, Liabilities, Obligations and Suits. 294. Succession to property, assets, rights, liabilities and obligations in certain cases. 295. Succession to property, assets, rights, liabilities and obligations in other cases. 296. Property accruing by escheat or lapse or as bonaventure. 297. Things of value within territorial waters or continental shelf and resources of the exclusive economic zone to vest in the Union. 298. Power to carry on trade, etc. 299. Contracts. 300. Suits and proceedings. Chapter IV. Right to property. 300a. Persons not to be deprived of property save by authority of law. Chapter III. Property, Contracts, Rights, Liabilities, Obligations and Suits. 294. Succession to property, assets, rights, liabilities and obligations in certain cases, as from the commencement of this Constitution, all property and assets which immediately before such commencement were vested in His Majesty for the purposes of the government of the Dominion of India, and all property and assets which immediately before such commencement were vested in His Majesty for the purposes of the government of each governor's province shall vest respectively in the Union and the corresponding state, and be all rights, liabilities and obligations of the government of the Dominion of India and of the government of each governor's province, whether arising out of any contract or otherwise, shall be the rights, liabilities and obligations respectively of the government of India and the government of each corresponding state, subject to any adjustment made or to be made by reason of the creation before the commencement of this Constitution of the Dominion of Pakistan or of the provinces of West Bengal, East Bengal, West Punjab and East Punjab. 295. Succession to property, assets, rights, liabilities and obligations in other cases. 1. As from the commencement of this Constitution, all property and assets which immediately before such commencement were vested in any Indian state corresponding to a state specified in Part to be of the first schedule shall vest in the Union, if the purposes for which such property and assets were held immediately before such commencement will thereafter be purposes of the Union relating to any of the matters enumerated in the Union list, and b. All rights, liabilities and obligations of the government of any Indian state corresponding to a state specified in Part to be of the first schedule, whether arising out of any contract or otherwise, shall be the rights, liabilities and obligations of the government of India, if the purposes for which such rights were acquired or liabilities or obligations were incurred before such commencement will thereafter be purposes of the government of India relating to any of the matters enumerated in the Union list, subject to any agreement entered into in that behalf by the government of India with the government of that state. 2. Subject as aforesaid, the government of each state specified in Part to be of the first schedule shall, as from the commencement of this Constitution, be the successor of the government of the corresponding Indian state as regards all property and assets and all rights, liabilities and obligations, whether arising out of any contract or otherwise, other than those referred to in Clause 1. 296. Property accruing by escheat or lapse or as bonaventure, subject as hereinafter provided, any property in the territory of India which, if this Constitution had not come into operation, would have accrued to His Majesty or, as the case may be, to the ruler of an Indian state by escheat or lapse, or as bonaventure for want of a rightful owner, shall, if he situate in a state, vest in such state, and shall, in any other case, vest in the Union, provided that any property which at the date when it would have so accrued to His Majesty or to the ruler of an Indian state was in the possession or under the control of the government of India or the government of a state shall, according as the purposes for which it was then used or held were purposes of the Union or of a state, vest in the Union or in that state. Explanation. In this article, the expressions ruler and Indian state have the same meanings as in Article 363, 297, things of value within territorial waters or continental shelf and resources of the exclusive economic zone to vest in the Union. 1. All lands, minerals and other things of value underlying the ocean within the territorial waters, or the continental shelf, or the exclusive economic zone, of India shall vest in the Union and be held for the purposes of the Union. 2. All other resources of the exclusive economic zone of India shall also vest in the Union and be held for the purposes of the Union. 3. the limits of the territorial waters, the continental shelf, the exclusive economic zone, and other maritime zones, of India shall be such as may be specified, from time to time, by or under any law made by Parliament. 298. Power to carry on trade, etc. The executive power of the Union and of each state shall extend to the carrying on of any trade or business and to the acquisition, holding and disposal of property and the making of contracts for any purpose, provided that, the said executive power of the Union shall, in so far as such trade or business or such purpose is not one with respect to which Parliament may make laws, be subject in each state to legislation by the state, and, be the said executive power of each state shall, in so far as such trade or business or such purpose is not one with respect to which the state legislature may make laws, be subject to legislation by Parliament. 299. Contracts. 1. All contracts made in the exercise of the executive power of the Union or of a state shall be expressed to be made by the President, or by the Governor of the state, as the case may be, and all such contracts and all assurances of property made in the exercise of that power shall be executed on behalf of the President or the Governor by such persons and in such manner as he may direct or authorize. 2. Neither the President nor the Governor shall be personally liable in respect of any contract or assurance made or executed for the purposes of this Constitution, or for the purposes of any enactment relating to the Government of India heretofore in force, nor shall any person making or executing any such contract or assurance on behalf of any of them be personally liable in respect thereof. 300. Suits and proceedings. 1. The Government of India may sue or be sued by the name of the Union of India, and the Government of a state may sue or be sued by the name of the state and may, subject to any provisions which may be made by Act of Parliament or of the legislature of such state enacted by virtue of powers conferred by this Constitution, sue or be sued in relation to their respective affairs in the like cases as the Dominion of India and the corresponding provinces or the corresponding Indian states might have sued or been sued if this Constitution had not been enacted. 2. If at the commencement of this Constitution, any legal proceedings are pending to which the Dominion of India is a party, the Union of India shall be deemed to be substituted for the Dominion in those proceedings, and, be any legal proceedings are pending to which a province or an Indian state is a party, the corresponding state shall be deemed to be substituted for the province or the Indian state in those proceedings. 1. Chapter IV. Right to property. 300a. Persons not to be deprived of property save by authority of law. No person shall be deprived of his property save by authority of law. 1. Ins by the Constitution, 44th Amendment, Act, 1978, as 34, WEF, the 20th of June 1979.